Okay. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to another podcast live streamed on YouTube from the Arcadia High School Creative Musical Arts and Sciences program. I'm Richard Maxwell, and I am here today with an alumni, somebody who is a really, I would say, just become a really good friend over the years. At this point, I have to say, Jim Meredith, actually, you graduated so long ago from Arcadia, not that you're nearly as old as I am, that I honestly can't even, I know it was like early 2000s.
2001.
2000, oh my gosh. So you were you would have been a sophomore or a junior my first year teaching there then.
Yeah.
So you kind of came through. So I'm so glad that you were kind enough to join us today and stuff. So you're based in Phoenix, right?
Yeah.
So
North Phoenix, actually, but yeah.
Okay. So just I guess to start, maybe can you just kind of tell us, what do you do now? And then I thought it might be kind of fun to back through.
So I'm a roadie, actually.
A little more than that, I would say, but
usually we don't. Well, a lot of us, we don't mind being called roadies.
Okay.
It used to be a thing where roadies didn't like being called roadies. so now, well, I think with a lot of the people that are coming up currently, they want to be called something different. So I'm actually technically a lighting technician.
Right.
So basically, well, I've been a crew chief. I've been a dimmer tech. I've been a front of house tech, which if your students are familiar with front of house.
Sure, absolutely.
So in the lighting aspect, the front of house tech, that the duties are to set up the lighting consoles and basically bring the lighting designer coffee and just make sure the system works and functions. There's a lot of networking and whatnot as far as that goes, depending on how large the show is, but yes.
Okay. So speaking of all that, so I know, you've been touring all over the world for years now, basically.
Yes.
At the risk of, sounding kind of silly, can you give us like the quick hits of, I know we'd be here for a long time if you were to list everybody, but maybe like your top.
Who I've been with?
Yeah, who you've been with.
Okay.
Maybe just even in the last, let's limit it to like the last.
Well, recent is 21 Pilots.
Okay.
That's the most recent. I spent all last year with 21 Pilots.
Okay.
And theoretically, I'm still kind of with that camp. So I was supposed to go out this summer, but we're kind of canceled right now.
Sure.
Anyway, before that was Elton John. Janet Jackson, Duran Duran.
St. Vincent for a while too, right?
St. Vincent, Two Door Cinema Club. I don't know if your students know who any of these people are.
They do.
It's possible. Anyway, Sammy Hagar, Bush.
You kind of get called in for just about anybody.
Right. Well, the company I work for basically just, I don't really have a choice. But if the band asks for you back, they ask for you back. You know what I mean?
Right. So obviously over the years you've developed a kind of, we're getting interrupted by my son here. This is Grayson. I appreciate that. He's giving me a lunch delivery in the middle of our podcast. So Gray, say hi to the world. This is on YouTube right now.
Oh, hi.
There you go. Thanks, buddy. He is my mini-me, as you can tell. Anyway, Jim, I hope you don't mind. Apparently, I'm going to eat a little bit while we're chatting here.
I don't care.
Cool. No, so obviously over the years you've built up a kind of reputation, and you're reliable and you're dependable, and so people are willing to invest in you to go out and do these things.
I missed Kelly Clarkson. I forgot about that one.
That's right. Oh my gosh. You were on for like a long time with her, weren't you?
That was my first one.
Really?
My first tour. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, what a way to get started. So let's let me ask you this. So I mean, because we could go in so many different directions, but I'm curious, like, what and maybe it's, I don't know, maybe it's easier to talk about it industry wise first and then for you, or vice versa, whatever. I am just curious, kind of your perspective on the inside of the touring world of arts and music and entertainment and just concerts in general. So COVID-19 kind of takes over the world, obviously, as it has.
Right.
What kind of went down in the industry in terms of behind the scenes? Because there were so many tours, and you see the news and stuff about
Yeah.
postpones and cancels, and
We were all scheduled to go out. I was scheduled for Coachella, and obviously this happened, and Coachella didn't happen, obviously. So
right.
it's basically all of my roadie friends and everybody online, like we're all part. We have huge Facebook groups just dedicated to roadies.
Mhm.
So and we talk a lot. We're actually a really tight knit community, amazingly enough, and it's huge because there's a ton of us, but we all know each other in some way or form. It's kind of crazy. So we all been checking in on each other, but right now we are dead in water. Nothing going on. Absolutely nothing. Like there's no, I mean, even go to the corporate market, dead in water. Nobody's doing trade shows. They're not doing any kind of corporate meetings or anything like that. They're doing exactly what we're doing right here. You know what I mean? So a lot of the artists have gone over to broadcasting on Zoom, like kind of like what we're doing now.
Mhm.
And it's just yeah, my industry, well, our industry, your students' future industry right now is taking a huge hit.
Do
So
you,
you know,
and I mean, I know you well enough. I can hear the frustration in your voice in that, and
it
and
is
imagine,
frustrating.
well,
Yeah.
and I can imagine, I mean, the ramifications of everything with that. Do you see, um, and maybe they haven't yet, but is there a sense that summer brings back some of this, or is it going to be longer? Or, I
Well,
mean,
I
obviously you
have
don't know
a,
what you don't know.
I have a really long email from PRG, which is the company that hires me. It's Production Resource Group, and that we're it's actually like the biggest touring company in the world.
Right.
And the email basically states that, yeah, when our industry comes back, it's going to come back with vengeance.
Sure.
And there's not going to be enough gear. There's not going to be enough people. And there's not going to be enough stuff,
I was wondering about that.
resources, trucking, buses, and everything to make it all happen all at once, because it's just going to all snap and happen at the same
Right.
time.
Well, I was thinking about that one of the things that is going to be a ramification of all of this is because we're being, I don't know, deprived of these events right now,
Right.
that once we can start having them again, there's going to be, I would think, a massive interest in attendance and just
Oh yeah.
having more
Well,
events.
yeah, because people are don't want to, and I am sorry for interrupting you, but people don't want to sit at home anymore. You know what I mean? They want to get
Right.
out and socialize. They
Sure.
want to get out and go to the concerts and have a good time, that
Right.
sort of thing. Heck, I bought JoJo Siwa tickets for me and my daughter. And that concert keeps getting postponed and postponed and postponed.
Sure.
And so it's like, well, at that point, I'll probably be back out on tour again. I won't be able to take her. So,
Oh, gee, I didn't even think about that. Well, if you need a chaperone, I'm happy to help you out. So let's let me transition here, because I'm curious, and I was hoping you would be willing to share a little bit of this. And I actually have this is coming from a student, in fact. So you're at Arcadia, and obviously you have now the issues you just outlined of the industry right now today notwithstanding, you've got a successful career You make a living. This is your job. This is not, quote, a side hustle. This is what
No,
you do.
this is
Um,
absolutely what I do. Yep.
and so the question basically is, can you give us the highlights, or maybe I don't know, the highs and lows of you go from Arcadia to getting this gig. Like, what was the process for that? Because obviously there isn't a
Yeah,
formula.
that's actually a good question. So, well, the transitional period, I didn't start touring until about 2014,
Okay.
2013. Sorry, 13.
Okay.
2013 is when I started touring. I did do a short tour in 2004 for George Lopez,
Hmm.
but I mean, he's a comedian, so
Right.
I don't really count that.
Yeah, but it's a gig.
It is a
And
gig,
you would have
totally.
been in 2004, you would have been what, 20, 21?
Just barely 21.
Okay, that's not nothing, dude. I mean,
Yeah. So
you are
just to
the
put
king
this
of
in
no ego. But
perspective,
yeah,
I'm
you are
I'm
the
I'm I'm 37 right now. So
sure. Oh my
um,
gosh, you're older than me. How'd that happen? I'm kidding. I'm totally. No, but okay, but no, but actually let's go back further, because I remember you, and granted,
mhm.
you were already at Arcadia before I was. You have seniority on me, actually, oddly enough. I don't know if that's good or bad, but you do.
Okay.
But I do remember you. Um, you know, I want to say it was within the first 6 months, and I don't even remember how. I guess you and I just hit it off because you heard about the weird new music teacher that was doing some other stuff, and you started bringing in some of your gear and stuff. But you and Alex, you guys created basically your
We
own.
had we had a company.
Yeah, you made a company.
It
You're
was a
like seven,
full-fledged company
right?
while I was still in high school.
And that's my point. So start there, because that was not like a little
Um,
random weekend gig. That
we
got
yeah
crazy big.
we had a company called Linear Productions,
Hmm.
and basically I was lucky enough to have a friend whose dad didn't care about. He was like, "Oh, you need a sound system? Here, we'll give you one. Here you go. Go out and have fun."
Right,
But we ended up creating an actual company out of it. The
right.
company lasted. Actually, we should have included Alex in this podcast. He's probably sitting at home.
Oh, you know what? Okay, we'll do that. I was just thinking we'll do that the next time. Actually, if you can, I don't know. I don't know how weird that is. You could say we could message
He's
him.
been doing Instacart,
Oh,
so
has he? Okay.
he might be out of the shopping center
All
right
right.
now.
We'll get him.
But
We'll get him next time. My apologies to Alex in all sincerity, because you're right. But so you guys are like 17 years old,
yeah,
and you're
18, 19.
yeah. But I'm saying, but like when you're in high school and you're running a company while managing to still graduate, while managing to do all that other stuff. But you
We
started
had our own
getting
cell phones, which were non-existent in 2000, or I'm sorry, in 98. No kid really had their own cell phone.
right. I have this very vivid memory of you two bringing into my rehearsal hall one day a mixer. I think it was just a Behringer something or other,
Yeah,
and you
we.
had just gotten these two wireless units for it,
Mhm.
wireless mics, but they were not like run of the mill wireless, and you guys were like
No,
showing me like the range and
they were sure though.
yeah, yeah, but they were good
And
stuff.
it was a silver Behringer. I remember it well.
Right. But it's interesting to me. So obviously that's where it starts.
Yeah.
And from that, I'm guessing, so there's a huge amount of entrepreneur work you're doing. There's a massive amount of, you know, self-discipline involved in that.
Yeah.
Um,
Hmm.
so we can mention what Alex winds up going on to do in a moment, because it's also an interesting thing. But how do you, and obviously the two of you are still good friends, you still get along. It wasn't like it
No.
imploded.
We just kind of went our separate ways, but we actually dissolved the company um, in 2001, I think. It was
Okay.
around that time because both of us got jobs at
I was,
OnQ Systems.
okay.
OnQ Systems at the time was doing Iowa State Fair,
Hmm.
Arizona State Fair, but like not just the small stages, the main stages, and
Right.
that's really when I got thrown into the fire.
Okay. So tell me a little bit about that. Tell me about those early gigs. Tell me about those.
Oh gosh, I just remember thinking I knew it all. And I knew a little bit about DMX and lighting and whatnot, and I knew just enough to be dangerous with sound. And so I literally got hired with this company on Q, and Mark Cockrell was his name. He was my boss. He didn't even know that I was only 18 years old. So anyway, figured it out eventually, but so he literally threw me through the ringer, having to go from just doing these simple little club type setups and whatnot to this massive thing that I had to rig and put in the air and hang over people's heads, and then like learn liabilities and all this stuff and learn rigging, and just to figure out how to make it all safe. And
Sure.
that was a whirlwind for me. Those and the local stagehand companies that we hired to help. So we hire out people from there's several stagehand companies in Phoenix. There's Rhino, there's NRG, there's a bunch of corporate ones. Anyway, so they put you through the ringer because they know that you're young. You know what I mean?
Right, right.
And so they're just on your butt all the time about just being young, and so you have to really prove yourself. And so,
Sure.
man, those like 4 to 5 years were grueling.
But obviously worth it. I mean, you came out on
Oh,
the other
absolutely.
end of it, kind of able to go, well, like you listed, 21 Pilots, Elton John, Janet Jackson. I mean, these are major artists doing massive shows and productions. So let me ask you this then. This is also something somebody's asking me to ask you. Have you seen, obviously the industry has changed in the years that you've been, I mean, you're coming up on 20 basically, if you want to, actually really past 20 if you think about it from when you started in high school with that company. But so obviously the technology has changed, the industry itself has changed, but what changes are you seeing in terms of, if there are any, as far as like, let's say somebody wants to go get a gig, can they go about it the way you did at this point, or is there a different mode that they got?
Yeah, I mean, the best recommendation that I have, well, I mean, obviously we have conservatory here.
Sure.
But if you go to conservatory, keep an open mind when you go to intern or graduate, because one of the big pet peeves of every single company in Phoenix is people that come out of conservatory and have a big head.
Sure.
Because
but I think that's I mean to be fair to the conservatory who've always been so gracious to us too, but I think that's something that I mean, I know from talking to the guys that run that place that they try to address that. I wonder if that's less the conservatory, and this is just my assessment. I think that's less the conservatory. I think it's generational, unfortunately.
I think it's a personality trait at this point. Unfortunately,
but setting that aside, I just mean in terms of like, so let's say, because you did not go to a trade school.
I did, but I didn't go until 2005.
Okay.
No, 2006 rather. I went to my parents were on my butt about getting a degree.
Sure.
They didn't like the industry I was working in, so I went to Collins College, and I have an associate's in media arts. So your friend over there at in the video program,
yes,
probably would. And then I took a year off of the industry and worked for Channel 15.
That's okay. Now I remember this. Okay, I do now remember this as you're saying it. So I guess my question though, let's go back to it though, like whether it would be Crass or Collins or whatever, what are the, if you're talking to a 16, 17-year-old, 15-year-old, whatever, right now, who's going, I want to do what Jim does, because they're all caught up in the whole, all the gigs and the touring and everything else.
What do they? Full Sail is pretty good.
Right. But I mean not even a specific school. I'm just saying like what's it take
the best thing you can do, the absolute best thing you can do, and the best thing I can recommend, and it was the probably the best thing I ever did was find a theater
Mhm.
locally, find a production company,
Right.
and volunteer.
Okay.
Put in some hours, because the what people want to see, especially higher ups, they want to see your determination, like
Right.
without pay. Look, it's not going to pay you out right out the gate. You know
Right.
what I
Right.
mean?
Right.
It just it didn't really happen to me that way either, because Alex and I were volunteering at Scottsdale Center for the Arts, and that's how we got all involved with production.
Right. Okay.
So, I mean, Alex mixed sound for Don McLean when he was like 8 years old. I'm serious. Mixed monitors for Don McLean.
Oh
You
my
can
God.
ask him directly about that. It's
Okay, I
actually a
never
really
heard
funny
that story.
story.
I am definitely gonna have to find out about that. I never heard that.
Yep. So I mean, we put in a lot of volunteer hours when we were at Ingleside.
Right. Okay. So you would that's so funny. So you're like literally so Ingleside, for people who don't know, that's a middle school.
Middle school, yeah.
So you just were basically obsessed with this from, I mean, my gosh, just this was where you were gonna be, one way or another.
Yeah, I literally, my parents took me to a Neil Diamond concert in 1989, and I didn't watch the concert. I stared at the lights, and I literally told my dad, "I'm gonna do that someday." And my dad was like, "All right, whatever."
Right, right, right.
You can directly ask my dad about it.
That's funny.
He vividly remembers it. So
That's really funny. And obviously it all worked out, but it sounds to me, I mean, like, it sounds to me like what you're saying is that ultimately it still comes down to work ethic, and that all the certificates or all the recommendations even in the world only go so far.
yeah, no, it's worth ethic for sure. And you just got to get out there and improve yourself.
Sure.
I mean, but unfortunately, you've got to start from the bottom, and
Right.
you know you're gonna have to volunteer some hours and get some people. It's like the film industry. It's about who you know.
Sure.
You know what I mean? It's eventually what you know comes along, but it's totally about who you know and who's going to take you under their wing and be like, all right, so this is how you do this is how you do that, and just be open-minded through the whole process, you know. And then eventually,
I'm getting another question from a student here. Sorry, I was responding to one, and then I get to it. But no, keep going. So eventually what?
no, then eventually, yeah, you'll make your way up the ladder. There are plenty of companies here directly in Phoenix, and the owners and managers and people like that all have access and contacts in the touring industry.
So that's interesting to me. So basically, what, if I'm hearing you right, what you're suggesting is there is a there is, even in Phoenix, which you know, people think, oh, it's not really connected. It actually is connected, and that there's places to start from here if you've got the work ethic and the.
I would. I can think of 4 companies right out the bat that would hire a young person just as an intern, you know, to come out and do shows like over the summer or whatever.
Okay. Well, and
And
if like what
then
you're saying is true
build a
about how,
reputation, and then
well, and it's and I guess tying that into what you said before is that the industry is going to be clamoring
it's going to
for
be
people.
it's going to be
almost
slammed.
right, which is a great. I mean, if we can all survive getting to that point, is some
Well, I'm sure
good
you
news.
have seniors that are probably leaving right now, right?
I
So
do.
they're probably watching this broadcast as well. So I mean, yeah, I mean, I can give contacts out to you.
Okay.
And
You know what? I when we're off air, absolutely. If you don't mind doing that, because I have several of them that I think are
sure.
extremely.
Yeah, no, I just
curious
got to
about
make
it.
some phone calls, but I'm sure there are companies. I can, like I said, I can think of like 4 right now that will
Right.
be looking for people.
So let me ask you this, and I know that we're coming up on time here. I got a couple of last quick questions I wanted to ask you though.
Sure.
What, in your sense, because you now have gone all over the world, and I realize in varying capacities that might make this not a question you feel comfortable asking, but I am curious, like, what is your sense of the scene in Phoenix versus, say, other large cities? And I don't know if you want to compare that just across the US or across the world, or if that's even a fair
No,
question, because
no,
when you go
well,
on the world, you're in stadiums and in huge arenas that it almost doesn't translate. But
so basically in Phoenix, the touring industry happens during the summer. All right, but there are no touring companies in Phoenix. Well, sorry, take that back. There is one. There's one touring. Actually, there's two. There's two companies that do tours in Phoenix, but they're more in the indie market.
okay.
One of them is a really good friend of mine. His name's Chris Broadman. He owns Lit Lighting, and they do massive indie.
Sure.
I should say not massive, but like indie rock
Okay.
kind of artists. That we have him here local. He's like I said, he's a really good friend of mine. As far as local market goes, corporate AV. That's what we have here.
Right.
Nobody, well, except for Florida, can really compete with our corporate AV. Why? Because we have such a great, fall, winter, and spring.
Sure. The market's here.
Temperatures are great. So what does everybody do? They send their corporate conferences down here, so people can play golf in the middle of winter.
Right. No, but that does make sense. And okay, so that does make sense. So the reason I was asking is that there actually are a lot of jobs in this field, even just locally.
Absolutely.
As a way to get moving towards that professional.
And I've got those contacts as well, because I do both. So
right.
Touring, usually touring. Well, I should be out right now, but so from now until usually October, unless your band goes a little bit longer, but October, and then I'll come off the road, and then end of October through the winter months, I'll do corporates.
Okay.
And that keeps me busy year round.
Sure. Gotcha. So you get kind of into like a pattern of it almost.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Let me close by asking you one last question.
Sure.
Which is this. And I guess you kind of already hit it, but I'm curious, where do you stand as far as like where do you see this industry going beyond obviously the current situation we're in is a total monkey wrench and all of it. Like 5-10 years from now, what do you see trends? Do you see anything changing of significance?
I mean, technology is just growing so much, that's the thing. And well, I don't know if you want me to touch on technology, but
yeah, why not? Well, let's close with that. Why not? We'll close with your thoughts on that.
No, just the one thing that I can recommend to anybody that wants to do lighting or sound or any of that, the field is rapidly changing. You know what I mean? And if you can't keep up with the new consoles, new software, Digicos or DigiDesign, Avid, whatever,
right.
Those consoles are constantly changing and they're coming out, or Yamaha, what is it? Solid State Logic. Have you heard of that one?
Yep, absolutely.
Anyway, there's a lot of audio people now, if you want me to touch on audio for a minute. Audio people that have to adapt to all these consoles because each band is going to have a different, well, if you're a big time monitor engineer or audio engineer, front of house or whatever, you can recommend, you can get whatever console the heck you want, but you still got to adapt and grow and learn all these things. Same thing with lighting consoles. We've gone through Grand MA 1 to Grand MA 2 to Grand MA 3, but we also have the Hog 2 that went to 3 to 4, and now CMAS is up and running, and it's we got the Magic Cube, now they got the Stadium Pro, and it's like if you gotta keep up with the software.
Doesn't that though? And I realize that I'm like our last question has now become like 4 last questions, but whatever.
It's okay.
Doesn't that come down though to kind of what you were talking about earlier in the work ethic thing? Like if you start out sort of like if you train yourself to understand what's going on under the hood, this is something that I talk to students a lot about, and the difference between I think the students that will quote make it versus the ones that I think want to but may or may not be able to is the ones that seem to do well are the folks like you who kind of like, yeah, I can push that button and I see what it does, or I hear what it does, and that's great. But what I actually want to know is when I push that button, what actually happened?
What it's actually doing, what it's
So that way,
yeah.
when the new board comes out, or the new device, or the new technology, you're just going, oh, okay, I see. Under the hood, it's still just doing this thing.
You need to know the networking and how it networks. I mean, so obviously, you know, these consoles have lighting and sound, both.
Sure.
You know, it's a network. So if you need to know the network behind it. So like just Grand MA, we have MANET. MANET runs all, you know, our like on 21 Pilots, we had 320 universes.
Okay.
DMX, so 512 channels times 300. That's how. Anyway.
No,
So you got to know the network processing units and how it all works, the protocol works, and how to jive it all. And
but assuming you do know that, you'd be able to apply it pretty much to any board if you understood the. I mean, my students are going to roll their eyes when I say this. It's the fundamentals. It's
correct, but every company has their own protocols and has their own things. So you've got to. It's, you know, you can't really. I can't go from Grand MA. Knowing what I know with Grand MA and go over to Hog and HogNet and all that. You know what I mean?
Of course not. Well, but that's like in studio for me. Like if I jump from Logic to Pro Tools or back or Ableton or wherever,
right.
I've got to understand the idiosyncrasies. But fundamentally, I can work in any DAW platform or lighting platform in your case, or sound or whatever, because you understand the core principles.
Absolutely.
So at least you know what to look for to, okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool. Yeah.
And oh, just one other thing.
Yeah,
so there are people in this industry that are like, oh, I only use Avid, or I only use Digico, or I only use Hog, or I only use MA, or I only use CMAS, or whatever. To me, on a lighting aspect, I know them all.
Right.
Well, I know enough to be dangerous.
Right. I got you. I understand.
But to me, they're a hammer. You know what I mean? It's a tool.
Right.
Each one of them's a tool. They all do the same thing. They just have different syntax on how to do it.
Right. So again,
learn as much as you can, I guess, is my advice. You know.
Right. And again, your versatility is obviously you've become very successful because you're versatile, because you're not narrowing yourself to a single box.
Yeah.
So that would obviously make a lot of it make the big difference. Jim, I love talking to you, man. I'm sorry that we're having to do it under this circumstance, because I'd rather be able to follow you on social media and when we talk back and forth on the phone or whatever about you all over the world. But this is really cool, and I'm glad you're healthy. I'm glad your family's healthy.
We're all good.
I truly appreciate your time today. I know my students appreciate it too. And when this is all over, we'll get together for real, but we'll be talking again soon.
You got it, brother. Anytime.
Thank you,
you
my
guys
friend.
Take care.
Thanks.
Yep.
Bye.